The MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, New York, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET has what you need to win. Bet $100 and get $100 at wynnbet.com or download the WynnBET app and start winning today. State restrictions apply. Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Friday, March 17th, currently 6:02 on the East Coast, taking a little break from the March Madness and here to talk some MLB, or at least you can call me a psycho talking about MLB when March Madness is going on. But joining me here on this episode to preview the NL West division as part of our division previews, she is the greatest friends of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. You can find her on her own show at MoxieBets and, of course, on CBS SportsLine as well. It's Katie Mox. Katie, what's going on, my friend?
Munaf, oh my God, thank you so much for inviting me on. I feel like you've been so gracious to come on MoxieBets multiple times. So happy to be on with you today. And I got to say too, beyond just like a tiny bit of looking at some MLB futures, I have not dug into the MLB season. So this was a good little kick in the butt to get me, start thinking about baseball again. And yeah, like you said, everybody's watching March Madness, taking a good little break from it. And also, happy St. Patrick's Day, my friend.
Yes, happy St. Patrick's Day. I have to change my wardrobe, and this is pretty much the only green I had. It's a little hunter green. It is green. Yeah. It looks a little gray on the camera, but yeah, I had to get into the spirit as well with you, Katie, there. So yeah, I'm the only psycho that's talking about baseball or handicapping baseball and with March Madness going on, but we're a couple weeks away from the MLB season, and we're in the midst of our MLB division previews, like I mentioned. So we'll be talking about the NL West today on the MLB Gambling Podcast. We had Minty on earlier this week. We talked about the AL West. Yeah, AL West with her. She told me to tell you hello. But yeah, Minty's always great. It's always a great time having Minty on. But what's going on in your parts of the world?
My parts of the world. Yeah, we got MoxieBets that's going strong. Obviously, I'm a big football gal, right? So yes. My busiest time and the happiest time of my year is always during the NFL season. So, and that was a lot of kind of build up and highs, and then it kind of screeched down to a halt for me and other 49ers fans. And so just been dealing with some free agency stuff. But yeah, I've been doing the MoxieBets podcast. I've also joined the Pick Six podcast, which is CBS Sports Daily NFL podcast, which has been great and super fun too, just to be in the mix and talking about free agency. And we're talking about the draft coming up and looking at futures and that sort of stuff. And then, yeah, I'm still on CBS Sports HQ, SportsLine, Monday through Thursday. So just been keeping busy. And, it's so funny to call it the off season, but there's no such thing really as an off season in sports, right? I mean, the train keeps moving on.
There never really is, especially for NFL, right? Because we know NFL like dominates here in the States. So it's never a sport that we're never talking about in our parts of the world. But I know you're a little heartbroken with Jimmy G departure from
over my shoulder.
Yeah, you got to keep him there. You can't take him down. You got to keep him there.
No.
Yeah.
I'm never going to take him down because to me, this is the guy that lives in my heart always. Yeah, to see him today in the silver and black, it was like, I think it was the right thing for the 49ers. I truly believe in Brock Purdy. I know that they're going to give it to Trey Lance. I know they're going to start with Trey Lance. You can't give up all those things with Trey Lance and not have him be the starter. Plus, we got Purdy, who had a successful surgery, and I think he's going to be back a lot quicker than people think. But you got to give it to Trey Lance, at least in the beginning of the season. But I wouldn't be surprised. I think he's going to have a very short leash. If mid-season or even after the first few games, if Brock Purdy gets himself in there, and now we have Sam Darnold, of course, so I believe in Brock Purdy. I think that he is this quarterback of the future for us. But man, I love Jimmy G. And it's going to be hard to see him in that silver and black. It was kind of sad to see that today. And I hope that he's successful going back with Josh McDaniels. Obviously, they know each other from New England, and it seems to be that Josh McDaniels kind of bringing a lot of his former New England players over there, maybe a little bit of Patriot way in Las Vegas. So I hope that he does well, but I hope the Niners do better. So
yeah. I mean, we knew at a point that whether it was going to be last year or, I mean, the rumor started like, what, 2 years ago about Jimmy G
yeah,
possibly
yeah.
leaving the 49ers, and lo and behold, that happens this season. But yeah, of course, spoken like a true champ. Wish him nothing but the best. But hopefully, the Niners are back, getting over the hump of from the NFC Championship into the Super.
Uh,
We'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll be talking more about the Niners throughout the year.
yeah.
Um,
You can't get me to stop talking about it, Munaf.
yeah, you probably just have to start like I know we have the Fly Eagles Fly podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. You may just have to start like a
I should.
49ers
I should.
49er
I
one.
should. And you know what? I bet we'd have more listeners. I bet we'd have
I
more listeners.
You probably would. You definitely probably would. But we're here to talk about baseball, like I
Yes.
mentioned, NL West. So, Katie, let's just dive right into it. We'll just kind of go through each team. We'll discuss the win
Okay.
totals, kind of how it see the season playing out for each team, and maybe talk about some of the moves that made throughout the offseason for each team. So let's just kick it off with the first team with the highest win total on the board, and that is going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers, who currently have a win total of 95.5 going into this new MLB season. And look, last season, this team won 111 games, fell short of their dreams, of course, again, of winning the World Series, and they were ousted by their division rivals, the San Diego Padres.
Yes.
Yes. Currently at 95.5. Katie, I'll give you the floor here first. What are you thinking about the Dodgers coming into this year?
Well, first of all, the regular season is never the Dodgers' problem, right? It's the postseason
Right.
where they start having problems. And I am very high on the Padres, which we'll get into a little bit later. This one is tough because there's been a lot of changes within the Dodgers organization. They kind of flipped around a lot of players here. I'm still going to lean over on this one. And like you said, they have the highest win total, tied with the Astros, but the highest in the NL. But they are just such a regular season juggernaut, I guess you could call them. They always find a way to get at least 100 wins, 111 last season. They've actually gone over 100 in 4 of the last 5 seasons. I believe in the last 2 seasons, their average is like 108 wins. So even though they lost a few stars in the offseason, most notably both Turners, right? You lost Cody Bellinger. You lost Craig Kimbrel. But Walker Buehler should be back from Tommy John surgery. And they always just seem to make aggressive acquisitions at the trade deadline. And they do have a really strong farm system. So even though it's possible that we see them kind of tick down under this 100, maybe under this 95, you just look at the past 5 years and you just got to kind of keep riding this train. So I lean over here.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, you nailed everything that I was going to mention there. I mean, they lost those 2 guys with the 2 Turners, right? I've always loved Trey Turner, even when he was with the Washington Nationals, and they went on to win the World Series over the Astros. Freddie Freeman, I'm a huge fan of as well. He's still on this team, but you still have 2 former MVPs on this roster, right? That are going to be batting 1 and 2 in Mookie Betts. That's going to be playing the outfield.
Yeah.
I've read some things that they may use him more in the infield this season as well at second base. We saw flashes of it last season where he was playing second base a little bit for the Dodgers, and then obviously you still have Max Muncy last year who had a great year. Will Smith should be in that 3 spot batting. They added JD Martinez at the DH spot. He should be the full-time DH, but it seems like, Katie, that there's more of a youth movement coming in for this Dodgers team, right? With Trace Thompson in the outfield, Miguel Vargas, you have Miguel Rojas that would probably be getting more time now with the Gavin Lux injury. That was just terrible to see him go down in spring training. But yeah, I mean, and you talk about this rotation as well. Clayton Kershaw, another year older, but he's always reliable during the regular season. Yeah. Julio Urias had a fantastic season last year. I think the one guy in this rotation that I'm really looking at to maybe find his form again from the past is probably Thor, Noah Syndergaard. I know he's bounced around a little bit from team to team over the past couple of years, but I'm hoping that he can take that next step for this rotation for this upcoming year for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, they signed him to a 1-year deal, and I feel like the jury is still out on if he can get back to his really great form. I know that last year wasn't his best year, but to your point, if he can get back to what he was, back with the Mets a while ago, I feel like he could be very impactful. And like you said, JD Martinez, I think is probably their most impactful move that they've made. I mean, him alongside Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, like, look out.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So I'm there with you. I think this is a great regular season team. And I mean, you mentioned they've won what 100 plus games in back-to-back years, but going back before the shortened season, they won 106 in 2019, 2017 they won 104. So I mean, you said it. This team is great during the regular season. It's just they get into trouble in the postseason. And then
Yeah.
I agree 100% that what you mentioned, that when it comes to the trade deadline, if they need to go out and trade for a piece, they're not afraid to do that. We saw that last season when they acquired Trey Turner. They also went out and got Max Scherzer. So yeah, for me, I think that this is going to be a season where, again, this team could get into the realm of 97 to 100, 101 wins. And then we'll see what happens with this team in the postseason. But anything else you want to mention for the Dodgers team? It seems like they're almost an automatic over win total team for the regular season, at least.
Yeah, no, I think we hit all the points there, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get to 100 this year, but you just you look at every single year and they figure it out. So you got to lean over here.
Yeah. All right, so let's get over to the next team in this division, and this team has been talked about a lot over the last two seasons with all the great signings that they've made, the star power that this team has accumulated on this team. And that is going to be the San Diego Padres. They currently have a win total of 93 and a half. They acquired Juan Soto. You still have Manny Machado, who opted out of his deal, but they committed to him for 11 years, $300+ million. They also signed Xander Bogaerts away from the Red Sox, gave him a 31-year-old shortstop an 11-year deal. So it seems like that their window is right now for the San Diego Padres team. They've put together this rotation as well as the everyday lineup for this team. Katie, talk to me about the Padres here. What are you thinking?
So I love the Padres, and very opposite to the Dodgers. The Padres to me are scary in the postseason. This is a team that I think can go very far. But when I look at their win total at 93 and a half, I have to go under on this one because they're just fresh off of an 89 win season and their very first playoff series win in more than a decade. But the last time that they got this many wins was in 1998. They had 98 wins in 98. And so for them to get there again with that large of a gap, I don't know. It seems like a reach for me here. On paper, this team is legit. You just said it. They got Juan Soto. They got Tatis Jr. They got Machado. They have a strong pitching rotation. The roster is stacked. I still have them winning between 90 and 92 games. I think they win more than they do last year, and they're going to get into the postseason and do some damage, cause a lot of problems. But the 93 and a half just seems like such a big jump for them, considering they haven't been here since the 90s.
Yeah, it almost seems like that this is the year where I think for their manager to figure out, the rotation's there, but then guys that, figuring out where guys fit into the everyday batting lineup. I think that might be something that I don't want to say they struggle with, but something that he might have to figure out just because of the names that are on this roster, right? I think that this number, I agree with you, is a little bit high. I know a lot of people that talk about baseball are very, very high on this team coming into the year, and rightfully so, right? We talked about the names: Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts. They added a couple veteran guys with Nelson Cruz, Matt Carpenter. We didn't touch on Fernando Tatis Jr. He'll be back eventually after he serves that suspension for this San Diego Padres team. So I think you're 100% correct that they'll be a juggernaut in the postseason, but at least for the regular season, I could see them going through some growing pains and a little bit of struggles as the season goes on. So I kind of have them winning around 90 to 91 wins this upcoming year. But I think, again, if I know we said the Dodgers, we expect them to, again, win 97 to 100 games, but I think this is the one team that can really obviously give fits to the Dodgers for that NL West title. So I agree with you. I got to go with the under here as well. And again, with Fernando Tatis Jr., when he does come back, it might take him a little bit to get into game speed because he dealt the injury last year. He wasn't there for this Padres team. I know he's one of the more electric players in the entire MLB. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think right now, I think both you and I agree on the under. Anything else for this Padres team?
No, I mean, I see people in the chat saying, like, how far do you think that they can go? I do see them winning this division, and we could talk about that, a little bit later. But I think that everything that you just said, it's going to ramp up a little bit slower for them. But this is a team that is no longer the Dodgers' little brother in the division. And I really think that they can come out and make a big splash. They made one last year in the postseason by knocking out the Dodgers. And I think that they can do it again. So this is a team that I'm high on in the postseason. But like we said, as far as like the win total, it might take a little bit of time for them to ramp up to it.
Yeah, I think we'll see what kind of happened last year with this team, where they kind of got hot towards the end of the season. They rode that momentum into the playoffs. They beat the Dodgers, their division rival. Fell a little bit short getting to the World Series, but again, I think this is going to be a team where you may be able to get some better odds during the regular season if they do get out of the gate slow for the upcoming season and get even better odds, or maybe even get a better number on the regular season win total, because we see multiple books put out updated numbers for win total. So yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on this Padres team as we kind of go along throughout the season. Kind of want to touch quickly on their rotation here. I mean, they have Yu Darvish, who had a great season last year. I think he could be a very, very sneaky Cy Young candidate. I did put some money down on him for that. Blake Snell, they acquired a couple seasons ago from Tampa Bay. He should have a bounce back here as well. Now, the back end of the rotation is what kind of makes me nervous. I know Michael Walker is a very seasoned veteran. Nick Martinez is going to be in that 4 hole, and I think probably Seth Lugo will be that 5th starter for this team. So, again, I think we've seen all the signings and trades that they have made. Again, like the Dodgers, if they feel like they need to money. Exactly. So if they need to go out and get another arm when it comes to the trade deadline, I don't think they'll be afraid to do that. And I feel like there will be multiple pitchers that do come up during the trade deadline, whether it's with another team that we do talk about here in a little bit from the Diamondbacks, or another team that they can go out and trade for and really bolster their roster to make that postseason run. All right, before we continue the conversation here for the NL West division, let me tell everyone about our presenting sponsor here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. That's going to be WynnBET. WynnBET is the official online sportsbook of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and WynnBET is now active in Massachusetts and a ton of other states. Be on the lookout for the WynnBET Win Hour each Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And during WynnBET Win Hour, marquee games of the week will have better odds on WynnBET, giving you a larger payout opportunity. And March Madness is officially here, and there's so many ways to bet on the big dance. Sign up today to receive a special offer, bet 100 and get 100. Limited state availability. And of course, for our DGens only, if you hit the biggest parlay of the week, you get $1,000 free credit. There's so much to choose from. All you have to do is head over to wynnbet.com or download the WynnBET app. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at wynnbet.com. Must be 21 years or older and present in a state where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right, Katie, let's keep the conversation going here. We'll get over to the next team in this division, and that is going to be the San Francisco Giants. Their win total, and if you're watching live, you can see Katie smiling from ear to ear. 81.5. I know this is your team. You're from the Bay Area. Did it break your heart about all the Aaron Judge news that kind of went off in the offseason?
I mean, there was the Carlos Correa and then the Aaron Judge. It was like we had all these like peaks and then these really deep valleys. And yeah, I mean, I am like the quintessential Bay Area girl. Obviously, you can see all of the 49er stuff. We got some NBA stuff here. And then I don't know if you can see, I've got E40 bobblehead in his Giants gear. And it pains me to say this, but I have to go under. I got to go under the 81.5. This team just hasn't been the same since Buster Posey retired. All right. Yeah. They just haven't looked the same. They went from 107 wins in 2020 to just 81 last season. And I can see them falling below 500 this season. And it pains me to say, but they're just in such a tough division, especially with the Padres getting better. There's 2 World Series contenders. You got the Dodgers and the Padres. I just don't think that they have the offensive firepower. And this offseason, like you said, there was the Carlos Correa thing, which I don't know, maybe the Giants are going to look very smart because then he was going to go to the Mets and then that, can't pass a physical to save his life. And then the Aaron Judge stuff, we thought he was going to come home to the Bay Area. We lost Carlos Rodon. Yeah, they signed a couple people, but it just, to me, I just feel like this is going to be another down year for the Giants, unfortunately. So I'm taking them under. Sorry,
this
E40.
number is I feel like this number is a little bit spot on for this Giants team, but you know what? I'm gonna go with the over. I think they can get in the realm of 83
Alright.
to 84 wins here. I'll give you some optimism about this team. Look, I know
Alright, let's go. Give it to me.
yeah, I know they missed out on Aaron Judge, and I think the whole Carlos Correa fiasco with the physical, with the Giants, like you mentioned, and then with the Mets that he failed it and they ended up back in Minnesota with that team that he played for last season. But I know they added Michael Conforto, and I think that obviously
Mhm.
health has been a concern for him. But when he's healthy and batting every single day and in the outfield, this is the guy that is an all-star player. There's no doubt about that in my mind. You still have Brandon Crawford on this, where they were able to get Jock Peterson back as well. They re-signed him. Um,
Mitch
the
Haniger.
Yeah, and I really like the additions that they also made to the pitching rotation. You had Logan Webb last year, was an absolute cash cow when he was pitching at home for the San Francisco Giants. You added Sean Manaea. Ross Stripling, I thought, was a very underrated pitcher last year for the Toronto Blue Jays when he did start in with the injuries that they dealt with over there. Alex Wood to kind of round off the back end of that rotation. So I think that, again, when we talk about this Giants team, it doesn't pop off the page from when we talk about their batting stats. They're kind of very middle of the pecking order when it comes to their offensive numbers. The season where they did win 100 plus games, you went back and look at the stats there. It didn't really jump off the page. They just kind of played traditional baseball and found ways to win games. So I think that they can do that this year in this NL West division. So I'm going to go with the over here. I think that could get into the realm of around 83 to 84 wins here for this team for the
Yeah, I
upcoming
mean, they
year.
definitely added some depth too, and they need all the help on defense. That's where they got killed last season. So I hope so. Me and you 40 are rather on your side than on my side, but it's just been so depressing. I feel like Buster Posey left and everything just kind of fell apart. He was
Yeah, I
the
mean,
heart and soul of the team.
oh yeah, 100%. I mean, as much as like I think casual baseball fans or even baseball fans that actually like follow, you know, every day when MLB is going on. Buster Posey is like one of those guys that you love the watching play, or is one of the
Yeah.
more respected veterans in the entire MLB. So it was really sad to see him go. So I think they can take that next step forward for this upcoming year for the San Francisco Giants. So I'll go with the over. I'll give you some optimism there. Anything else you want to mention about your team here, the Giants?
No, I just I hope that you're right. I hope that you're right.
Have you been to a game there? It looks like a really nice like stadium that they
It
play in.
is a beautiful ballpark. I mean, obviously overlooking the San Francisco Bay right there, and you know that the people kayak out there and try to
Yeah.
get the the balls, the home runs or the foul balls or whatever comes over there.
Mhm.
More home runs. It's a beautiful ballpark, and it has that kind of old world feel, but it's still fairly modern. So yeah, I mean. You're in Texas. I was thinking you're in Los Angeles. So it might be harder to get out there, but that's definitely, I think, a ballpark everybody should go to at least once.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. I was in San Francisco, I don't know how many years ago, but I do remember like driving past it and I was with like a crew that doesn't give a rat's ass about sports. I was like, "Can we go
Yeah.
to a game?" I don't I think it was the summertime, but they're like, "No, we'll pass." I was like this close to going by myself just to go check out the stadium, but hopefully I can get
Well,
out there sooner rather than later.
one, having friends that don't give a rat's ass about sports are not good friends, and those are maybe people that you should reevaluate in your life. And two, my family, we actually grew up as A's fans, and
Okay.
I defected to the Giants years ago. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so. And my brothers and my dad were all still. But when you compare where the A's play versus where
Oh, yes.
the Giants play, it's like night and day. And just finally, last season, my brothers were like, "We are done." With the A's. They've traded away all of our good players every single
Mhm.
year. We can't deal with management. Like, we are not cheering on this team anymore. And I still think that what's happening is kind of bullshit. And I don't
Mhm.
know that the A's will do well or that a baseball team will do well. They've done a lot of research about Vegas and they don't think that a baseball team will be able to attract the same amount as the Raiders do or some of
Yeah.
those flashier sports. So
Mhm.
I don't know what the answer is, but I feel like A's fans get a bad rap. A lot of people are like, oh, no one's coming to these games, but you don't understand what the management has put these fans through over the last 20 years. Like, you would stop supporting them at some point too. So A's fans are great, and I hate to see them get a bad rap. And I don't want to see the A's leave Oakland either, or to leave the Bay Area. So and rant.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is something that we talked about the A's for ever since we started the MLB Gambling Podcast. When Minty used to come on, or still does come on, we talk about the A's every single year just because she's in Vegas, and there have been the rumors, like you mentioned, about them moving over to Vegas, or whether that's another city. And when me and Minty would talk about it, she would say that, hey, they would have like the president of the team and the ownership making trips, to Vegas to find potential sites and things like that. But that's been going on for now, 2+ years. So I feel like
because baseball's not a and correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because you're the bigger baseball fan even than I am, but baseball's not a destination sport like I would say football is, and Vegas is a destination city. So are you really going to get the amount of fans that you need for this to be profitable in Las Vegas? I mean, at least on the reports and stuff that I've read, I'm not necessarily sure, but the way that they just keep tanking, and for a while, the A's still made it into the playoffs. They were still this sneaky team that was getting in there, but now it's just depressing.
Yeah, you're right. Like, we know, like we mentioned at the top of the show, like, football is what's gonna make it a destination sport, right? Whether that's in Vegas, like I've had conversations with Dave, the sportsbook consigliere. We had him on our pods, and that now people just make a weekend out of it because it is in Vegas, right? You can just get there on a Thursday or Friday. You can go to the game on Sunday, and then leave on Monday. So I don't know if that'll be the thing for baseball, because again, there's baseball right now is definitely at the bottom. Yeah, it's not exciting for fans right now. And again, with all the rules changes that they have made this season, maybe that translates to more fans, attending games or getting back into the sport. So, but we'll see. I feel like,
right, with the pitch clock.
Yeah, pitch clock, the bigger bases, the ban of the defensive shift now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We said this on the pod when we did the AL West, is that there feels like there's more off the field stuff going on with the A's rather than what's on the field right now, trying to figure out what's going to be the direction of the future of this franchise.
Yep.
All right, let's go over to the next team in this division. 2 teams left. We'll get over to the Arizona Diamondbacks, who have a win total of 74.5. They did see the departure or the trade of Dalton Varsho over to the Toronto Blue Jays. But they did get back Lourdes Gurriel to kind of help him in the lineup. They do have 2 stud pitchers on their starting rotation there here, Katie, with Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly. Mad Bum, one of your guys, is still on this rotation for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They re-signed Zach Davies.
Still got some juice left in him.
I think so too. I definitely think so too. But look, this team has a good mix of guys that are veterans and young guys. A lot of people have been talking about Corbin Carroll, who's going to be one of the more exciting players to watch on this Arizona Diamondbacks team. Kelton Marte, Jake McCarthy, Christian Walker, who's I think very underrated. So they've put together a roster here. Katie, what are you thinking about this team coming into the year?
I like the over. I mean, it's a low total, right? 74.5, but I like this over. And I do think that their win totals have been super low for the past few years, because look at who they're up against. You got the Dodgers, we talked about, win at least 100 games, for however many years. The Giants, who didn't have a great season last season, but over the last 10 years have been, a formidable opponent, and certainly a team that wins a lot. And then you got the Padres, who are now, like the Dodgers, just throwing money at themselves. And so they're becoming a team that wins a lot. So I feel like the Diamondbacks have been kind of like the redheaded stepchild in the corner, and that's maybe why their season win totals have been so low. But the league has kind of spread out the schedule a little bit more. They don't necessarily see the NL West teams as much. And like you said, they've got this kid, Corbin Carroll, that from what I've been reading, he's like the second coming of Jesus Christ. Like, everybody seems to think that this kid is going to be, 8 years, $111 million. And he's just going to change this team completely. And I don't know. I hope so. I mean, he sounds exciting. We saw a little bit of him last year. It's his first time with a full season in the MLB. And like you said, they've got a really good pitching rotation. And I like this over. I think we can see a little bit of a splash from the Diamondbacks this year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think this is the one team. I mean, look, they won 74 games last year, and this team, they were young. There's another year of experience with some of their young guys. Like we talked about the two pitchers that they're going to bring back. I mean, both are Cy Young worthy candidates, especially Zach Gallen, who was just a cash cow when you were betting on him when he did make his starts for this Diamondbacks team last year. So I like the mix. I think you hit the nail on the head on the handicap is that they won't be having to play that many games in this division when you're having to go up against the Dodgers, who just beat up on you every single year. Same thing with the Padres now with the improved roster. So less division games. There'll be more games outside of the division, obviously, and in their conference, or sorry, in their league going up into this year. So I like it. I think they're going to be a feisty bunch. I think that this is a team that can get into the realm of about 77 wins here for this upcoming season. So I do have concerns about the bullpen a little bit, but I think when you have two guys that are inning eaters in this rotation with Merrill Kelly and, like I mentioned, Zach Gallen, Bumgarner still has some juice in him, like you said. I think that he's a guy that can, if he's pitching well, can get you 7+ innings if he so chooses to on that day. Zach Davies, another guy that can eat up innings as well. So I like where they're at, especially with the talent that they do have. We talked about Lourdes Gurriel coming over. He's going to be the DH for this team. Josh Rojas as well over at third base. Christian Walker, like I mentioned. So I like the 1 through 6 in this batting order. I'm there with you. I think this is a team, again, like I mentioned, that can get to about 77 to 78 wins here, Katie.
We've agreed on everything, but my team. But sometimes you got to put you just don't want to get your hopes up too much. You try to kind of undersell yourself. But yeah, again, I hope that you're right on that one. But I do think that this not Rockies. We're getting to the Rockies next, which I am not high on at all. But I do think that this Diamondback team could be a little frisky this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you really want to get frisky with this team, they are. I was trying to pull up their number to make the playoffs. They could, I don't know, sneak in as a wild card team. That those odds are right now at plus 550. So, if Malcolm was on the pod here, if Malcolm was on the pod today, he would definitely co-sign this for sure. The Diamondbacks to make the playoffs. The first year we started this pod. Usually when we do the second half preview. The first year we did this pod, he picked the Diamondbacks to make a run in the second half of the year. It didn't work out for them, so I feel like he was a couple years early. I think this is going to be the year where they do get over their win total here. So hey, look, plus 550 is there.
I'm taking that plus 550 for them to make the playoffs too. I mean, the second coming of Jesus Christ is on their team now, so let's go.
Every time I see his name now pop up, I'm gonna think of second coming of Jesus.
Yeah,
Christ,
you're gonna think he is risen. That's what you're gonna think.
Oh, Corbin Carroll. All right, let's get over to the last team in this division. I really don't have a lot to talk about this team, but the Colorado Rockies right now at 65.5 wins. We take a look at what they did last year. It wasn't very pretty. I'm trying to pull up their record here, but it made me scratch my head, Katie, when they signed Chris Bryant to that big contract that they did. I didn't get the signing at the time. I still don't get it. I mean, this team did win 68 games last year. They won 74 the year before. But when we talk about bottom dwellers in a division, I think this Colorado Rockies team is going to be another team this upcoming year where they're probably only going to be reaching maybe 62 to 60 wins up this upcoming year, Katie.
Yep. Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about them either, but I'm definitely taking the under. When you talk about bottom dwellers, I mean, they're 10 wins below what the Diamondbacks are, or 9 or so. But it's like they finished with 68 wins last season, but they have no direction. I feel like they didn't really make any big offseason or notable moves to talk about here. They're terrible on the road. Terrible on the road. It's 27 wins away from Coors Field last year. They averaged an MLB low of under 3 runs per game, and they ranked 25th in batting average at 225. They cannot play away from home. So I probably won't play. I'll lean under on this, but I probably would just stay away from the Rockies in general.
I think you just have to bet the under on this team for the regular season win total. I mean, even Captain Insano, or one of our regular guys that pops in for the MLB when we do go live, he's on the under here as well. So and it's nails it, right? They're great as home underdogs, and when they are playing at home, we do see a lot of runs being scored in Coors Field just because, again, in altitude and it's a hitter's ballpark. And you mentioned the numbers of this team on the road. They're just not very good. So look, like you said, they didn't make any moves in the offseason. This pitching rotation is slated for 4 out of 5 guys that have ERAs above 5. It's just not very pretty for this team. So I'm not going to waste our time on this Colorado Rockies team. If you're listening to this and you have a case to be made for the over, tweet us, because I don't want to waste any more time on this team for this upcoming
or just look at yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself in the mirror and then talk yourself out of it and go the other direction. You don't need to tweet us. You just need to look at yourself.
Yeah, there you go. All right, before we continue here with some more NL West talk, we'll talk about the division winners here as well. But let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is heating up for March Madness. Well, it's not. It's already heated up because it's already here. College Pick'em is a great way to get into the action, especially if your bracket is busted after day one, which I believe a lot of people's brackets did get busted, except for Katie's because she's just crushing it. Plus, Underdog Fantasy has your favorite college basketball player props as well. Head over to underdogfantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100 deposit bonus of up to $100. That's underdogfantasy.com, promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. All right, Katie, so we kind of went through, or we didn't kind of, we went through every single team there in this NL West division. I'm just going to quickly pull up the division odds for this team, and we'll pick a division winner, and then if you have anything else you want to give out from around MLB, we'll discuss that. But for at least for the NL West right now, the Dodgers are the odds-on favorite at -110, and then the Padres are right behind their tails at +120. Giants plus 950 to win the division. Diamondbacks 45-1, and the Rockies all the way at 180-1. Jeez. And if anybody is taking that, I will give you 301 odds for the Rockies to win this division. I will gladly take your money before you flush it down the toilet.
Bet with me.
Yeah. But Katie, I think we're in agreement that it's probably the Dodgers division here at -110, right?
I like the Padres. I mean, yes.
Okay.
It's like, but I took the Padres earlier when they were +140. I guess now they're +120. And look, of course you could make the case for the Dodgers. I mean, you could make any case you want for the Dodgers. They won a franchise record 111 games last year, 22 more games than the Padres did. They've won 9 of the last 10 division titles, 3 pennants, a World Series. Like, we get it, Dodgers. And the case can definitely be made for them. But I do feel like the Padres are no longer the Dodgers' little brother in the NL West. They stunned the Dodgers in the division series last year, 3-1. 3-1. Like, nobody saw that coming. You got Machado finalizing that big deal. Thank God they did that too, because before him, they hadn't been to the playoffs in about 13 years. And I said it earlier, on paper, right? On paper, this team is legit. You got Juan Soto, you got Tatis Jr., you got Machado. The pitching rotation is one of the best in the league with Darvish and Snell and Musgrove. So I just think that at +120, +140, it's worth a play on the Padres here, even though, yes, it seems like the Dodgers are going to run away with this. I've got faith in the Padres.
I think too. I'm there with you. I never lay a minus price on a division winner, especially for the regular season when your money is tied up for that long, especially in a baseball season where it goes all the way to October, November for you to get your money out. But I agree with you. I think the Padres probably know that they can dethrone this Dodgers team, and there's probably a new sheriff in town, I guess we can say, for this NL West division, because again, like you mentioned, they beat them in 4 games in the divisions series last year in the playoffs. And I know there's a lot of pieces that are now missing from this Dodgers team when they won that title during the shortened season. I'm not saying they're going to go through growing pains, but I feel like, I didn't mention this when we were talking about the Dodgers, this kind of feels like the calm before the storm, where they throw an absurd amount of money to get Ohtani on the Dodgers.
What? But doesn't Ohtani want to be on a small market team? Isn't that his whole thing, that he didn't want to be on like a big juggernaut team?
I mean, I think that if somebody wrote gave you a blank check and just said, fill it out whatever money you want. I think Dodgers, the Yankees, or the Red Sox are that type of team that can. And I get it.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't want to be. And we were talking about this on Monday as well, or I was talking to offline about with Malcolm. Is that I'm not sure what the truth of this is, or if this isn't something that he will take into consideration. Of that, he wants to be on the West Coast because it is a shorter flight from the West Coast to over back home to Japan.
Yeah,
and it does make sense. But again, I
he
feel
might
like
not even have to move. He could still live where he's living if he went to the Dodgers. I just always thought that he wanted to be on a smaller market team because I know wasn't there some buzz last year about him going to the Mets potentially? Or I could be saying that wrong. I don't know. I for some reason that's in my head. But if that happens, if Ohtani gets to the Dodgers, I mean, good luck to everybody.
I mean, that already has a lineup, like we mentioned, of 2 former MVPs with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, and then you add Ohtani to that. Yeah, you're right. Good luck. I mentioned the Yankees. Insano is a Yankees fan. He says, "Don't tease me." Hey, look, if there's a team that can throw money at Ohtani, Yankees are definitely one of those teams for sure. So, we're both on the Padres here to win this division. Katie, anything else around the MLB you want to give out? Any futures, awards markets? Maybe it's this division. Anything else that's kind of caught your eye? I know you mentioned that you're still prepping up for the MLB season. Anything that's kind of caught your eye?
Yeah.
Outside of the NL West?
I mean, I think in this division, I kind of like a sprinkle on Juan Soto to win the NL MVP. It's at plus 550. So 3 actually of the top 6 in the MVP odds are the Padres. You have a good mix there that maybe one of them is going to get it. He's never won the MVP. So in some ways you think maybe he's due. And maybe with the Padres last year in 52 games, he hit 236, 6 home runs, 16 RBIs. Not MVP level, but playing a regular season with Manny Machado, with Xander, with Tatis, you got to think that those numbers are going to increase a bit. I do think these Padres are going to be a great team. So, plus 550, I know he's still the favorite here, but I think he can make a run there. So I like that one. And then I actually like the Chicago Cubs over their win total at 77.5. They had 74 wins last season. So this is only 3.5 more than they had last season. There's some good rebuilding going on. They signed some good free agents with Swanson, Jameson Taillon, Cody Bellinger, Trey Mancini, Eric Hosmer. But yeah, Bellinger has not been as good maybe in the last couple seasons, but he also really hasn't been healthy. So you got to think if he's healthy, that's going to change their season. It's a huge improvement, especially in the defense and really with veteran leadership on this squad. And you think the Reds and the Pirates seem to be kind of tanking. It's one of the weaker divisions in baseball, and they have such a great farm system.
Yeah.
I like them over their win total. Give me the Cubs, the Cubbies.
Yes, I love this one as well. There were 2 bets that I made when the season started. Cubs was one of them at 77.5. I'll save the other one when we do the other division previews. But yeah, you're right. Look, there's a good mix of veterans on that team now for the Cubbies. They also have a lot of young talent as well on that team. So I think they're going to be able to put it together as well. Pitching is a little bit of concern. But again, when we talk about when they've added the names that they have added to this roster, now, again, it is a destination where it's a historic franchise. I mean, Wrigley Field, one of the oldest ballparks in the entire MLB. Players will want to go there now and play for this Cubs team. So I love the over 77.5, especially in a division where I know the Cardinals definitely got better. They made that run last year to win the division title. Brewers, they have the 2-headed monster in their pitching rotation, but I still feel like they haven't done enough to address their offensive woes that they've had over the past several seasons. And the Cubs are the new shiny thing now in that division with the, like you mentioned, all the names that they've added in this offseason. So I'm right there with you over 77.5 for the Cubs as well. So glad you're in agreement.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So I know you're probably going to ask about World Series, and I was going to say the Mets, but what do you think of the Mets' futures chances now with Edwin Diaz out for the season because of what? And do you think that the World Baseball Classic? Because some people are saying, oh, it's a worthless exhibition. tournament, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
And then some people are like, this means more to us than even the World Series does. I think it depends on what country you live in and how much. But like,
Sure.
so I'm curious what your thoughts are on the World Baseball, championship, and then also what this means for the Mets.
I think for Edwin Diaz, I mean, it's crushing for that Mets team, right? I mean, what he did last
You
year,
still got to pay him. Yeah.
you still got to pay him, right? But I mean, I'm going back and looking at his stats from last year. I mean, he had a 3-1 record. He was what? Let me see. I have the numbers in
The
front of
best
me.
closer in baseball. Yeah.
Oh yeah, a 1.31 ERA, 32 saves last year, back-to-back years where he had 32 saves for this Mets team. It's crushing, but again, when we talk about the Mets and with the new ownership with Uncle Cohen, I think that he's still going to go out during the regular season, like we talked about with the Dodgers. That if they need to go out and get a bullpen closer, he'll go out and make that trade and replace
Okay.
the void that Edwin Diaz made. But it's definitely deflating. I know he's a huge Mets fan. I don't know if he's still in the chat, but yeah, he was crushing. We talked about it in our little group chat that we had for the MLB Gambling Podcast. That is crushing to see him the way that he did go down. But it is a loss. But again, I think when you talk about the ownership and the front office there, that if we're, let's say, 5-10 games into the season, that if they a closure that they tried didn't work out, they'll go out and make that trade and kind of shore up that back end of the bullpen, especially at that closer position for the Mets. So it is definitely concerning. It's heartbreaking as a Mets fan, but again, like I mentioned, I think for that front office, they'll go out and make the move if they need to.
And what do you think of the
And
World Baseball Classic? Like a
and
championship. It's a
yeah,
classic, right? Yeah. Classic.
yeah, a World Baseball Classic. Yeah, you're right. I think a lot of the front office and the managers are probably in the ear of the managers that are managing these teams for their respective countries and saying, "Hey, I don't like." Let's just throw Otani out there as an example. I'm sure the Angels front office is probably telling them that, "Hey, I don't want my guy throwing more than 4 innings or 50 pitches at a time, just
Yeah.
because the season is what we're a couple weeks away." Um, we've seen some injuries happen. We've seen guys even pull out of the tournament um, because they don't want to risk that injury. We saw Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I think he had some type of, I want to say, a leg injury, and
Yeah.
he didn't play in the World Baseball Classic. So I know, yeah. For again, when we talk about these type of tournaments, Katie, when we talk about countries, it does mean a lot for some of
Yeah.
these countries that, hey, it is, we're representing our country. We're
Mhm.
playing for the name on the front, not the back. And it does mean a lot. I think that one of
Especially a
the
lot of these Latin speaking countries. I feel like it's very,
exactly,
very important to them.
yeah. So I think that it's a combination of that. Hey, the front office is in the ear of like, hey, we're paying this guy millions and hundreds of 200, $300 million for him to play professional baseball at the major league level. We don't want him to get hurt, so be careful. But there's also, like you mentioned, I think it's a combination of both. But again, if you're an owner, Katie, like let's say you're the owner of the San Francisco Giants and you have one of your star players playing for his country and you're paying him 300-400 million, I'm pretty sure you're going to say, "Hey, be careful with my guy because number one, he's
But
generating ticket sales for me."
this
Yeah,
was him just jumping up and down in the end. It wasn't even like it
which
was during the game, which is even
head
worse,
scratching.
Yeah.
It is, but yeah. Again, I think that yeah, if I'm a owner or a manager, I'm telling those managers of the respective countries that be careful with my guy. I know it was a
Yeah.
freak injury about the way he was celebrating, but again, when you're running around on bases or you're trying to make a play, running, to home to first base or, running around the bases, you can easily trip up and have a leg injury and it'll cost you, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Or in the case of Edwin Diaz, I know it wasn't a live ball injury. It can cost you the entire season. I think for the Mets with Edwin Diaz, it's a player that you can replace, but let's just say Manny Machado goes down, Juan Soto goes down. That's going to affect what the Padres' goals are at the end of the year, like we talked about, for them to win the title. So I think it's a little bit of a combination of both.
I do too. I made a mistake. I said Latin speaking. I meant Spanish speaking. I don't want to mix those two things up
Yeah.
because you don't want to do that, Spanish speaking countries. But yeah, no, I agree with you. And I'm just so curious because I've seen people fighting about it on Twitter. And I think there's a lot of Mets fans who are really upset about what's happened, and they, are cursing the World Baseball Classic. And then you have some people, from these Spanish speaking countries that are like, no, this actually means more to us than anything else and to these players. So I'm just curious to get your perspective since you're the baseball guru.
Yeah, I don't know about the guru part, but it just makes a sense. Like when you have Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, the talent that is in those countries that come together and play in a World Baseball Classic. I mean, some of like USA, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. I mean, those rosters right there, their everyday lineup just looks like an all-star lineup, and it really is. So, yeah, I can understand it both ways. I really can. Cool. All right, so Katie, the end has come. Let's give out one best bet for the division. It's a win total. I know we went through all 5 teams, and then give me your World Series prediction as well.
What my best bet is for the division?
Yeah, for the division. If you want to give a division winner, or if you want to give a win total, I'll leave it up to you. Whatever you want to give.
I'll do the Padres to win the division at plus 120. I got it plus 140, but let's go into that one. And then as far as the World Series, I think I'm still going to go with the Mets. Now, I know that the Mets are probably going to Met at some point in the end of the season, but just all of the changes that they've made and how stacked that roster is and how they're just not afraid to spend money, kind of like the Dodgers were. It's tattoo sucker on my forehead. I'm going with it. Give me the Mets.
And then who's coming out of the American League for the World
Coming
Series?
Out of the American League? Yankees. Let's say the Yankees. Let's root for a Subway Series here. Yeah. I was rooting for a Subway Series last year, and it didn't happen. And there's so many Yankee fans in my life. So, and I went to a few Yankee games, and I have to say, there was not a Yankee game that I attended in person where there was not a home run. So maybe I'm good luck. Maybe it's a home run friendly ballpark. I don't know, but I do like the Yankees. So let's have Aaron Judge run it back.
So you're the reason why Aaron Judge broke the record in the American League for the home run record.
Congratulations. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, make sure gives you at least some portion of his big contract that he just signed for the payoff. All right. And I'll give my best bet. I'm going to go with that Rockies under. We talked about it. Again, this team, it stinks. I think there's no better way to put it. They didn't really make any offseason moves to improve the roster. And yeah, I think they're going to be again at the bottom of that division. So we'll take the under. I think it was 65.5. Yeah, 65.5 was the number for this Colorado Rockies team. All right, that is gonna do it for this edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast. 4 division previews in the books, 2 more left, and right before we know it, the MLB season is going to be here. Katie, before we get out of here, I haven't been able to mention this to you all the pods that I've done with you, but I just kind of want to take this moment and give you your flowers and your recognition of everything that you've done over the past several years. It's just been a pleasure watching you grind. I mean, if there's no better way of putting it, like how you grinded your way to where you are now. And it's just been a pleasure to call you a friend now, and coming on your pods with MoxieBets and just watching you grow. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Munaf, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And, before I would never say that I've blown up, because that's not what's happened. But before I started really actually working in this industry, I came on SGPN, and Ryan and Sean and you and Colby. And, those were some of the people I kind of first met in this industry. And y'all are my favorites. And I'm always so honored when you come on my stuff. I'm so proud to come on yours. And, let's just keep on moving to the top.
Yes, ma'am. 100%. Let our people know where they can find you, whether it's on social media. I know you mentioned all the stuff at the top of the show where they can find you on all your shows and all that.
Yeah, so on Twitter, you can find me at Katie Mox. On Instagram, you can find me at Katie Mox Bets. If you happen to have the CBS Sports app or Paramount Plus, you can catch me on SportsLine Monday through Thursday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. We've got the MoxieBets podcast, which is available on ESPN's YouTube channel or anywhere that you get your podcast. That's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then the Pick Six podcast, which is a CBS Sports daily football podcast, is Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, usually around 1 p.m. Sometimes it pushes out a little bit later, but there are plenty of places to find me babbling about sports and gambling.
Just do yourself a favor. Yeah. Just follow her on Twitter, like we mentioned, at Katie Mox. And again, also on Instagram as well. Katie, thank you so much for taking the time out on this Friday evening. I'm sure you have plans for the weekend, so I don't want to hold you up to it, but definitely we'll have you back on during the regular season. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll be back next week for the final two divisions before we get to the season. Till then, good luck with your picks. Let's break these books off and let it ride.